What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my review of the OnePlus 12R. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is the OnePlus 12R. Now I'd like to thank OnePlus for being kind enough to send this phone out to me to cover here on the channel, but all opinions expressed in this video are completely my own. In addition to that, I was fortunate enough to be able to meet with OnePlus at CES 2024, which was several weeks ago. I was able to schedule a meeting with them at their suite, and I was able to learn a lot more in-depth information related to the 12R and then also the regular 12. But in general, I'm very excited for both this device and the OnePlus 12 because they're really shaking things up this year, offering a ton of value while also giving us really no compromises at all. Now keep in mind though that each phone does compete in different segments, so for the OnePlus 12R, this device actually features an MSRP of just $499 for the 128GB model, and then $599 for the 256GB model of the phone. So those are really fantastic prices for this device, and I'd imagine that as time goes on, there will be various promotions and even more discounts, so definitely take a look at the various links in the video description to see where things are currently at. But again, if this phone's starting at $499, it's really more of a competitor to the Pixel 7a, for example, or Samsung Galaxy S23 FE, than it is to a full-on flagship smartphone, so this is really more of a mid-range device. Now before I get too far into things here with the OnePlus 12R, let's see what all comes included in the box. So here's the box, you can see right there, 12R, and then OnePlus down below there. And then you can see here that I do have the model of the phone with 256GB of storage and 16 gigs of RAM, and then this is the cool blue color. But included in the box is a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer, and then we're also getting a 100-watt USB wall adapter. So this phone is compatible with 100-watt fast charging, and that's all made possible due to SuperVOOC technology, which is proprietary to OnePlus's parent company. But basically the reason why this is USB-A, not USB-C, is because that's basically how they've designed SuperVOOC to work. But basically, with that level of fast charging, this device can go from 0 to 100% in just 26 minutes, and that's especially impressive considering that the battery that we're getting here with the phone is really large at 5500 milliamp hours. So not only are we able to recharge this phone very fast, but it's also getting excellent battery life, so you should expect this phone to last for at least a day, if not two. And then also in the box is a USB OTG adapter. We're getting some literature here as well, and then we're also getting a SIM card removal tool. Now, despite the OnePlus 12R being a very affordable mid-range smartphone, we're actually getting really impressive display specifications here with the phone. So we're getting a 6.78-inch LTPO4 AMOLED display here with the device, and it does feature a 120Hz refresh rate. So a super smooth display here with the phone, so navigating around it is a complete breeze. And you can see too that colors really pop, and then we're getting a very immersive display as well. So this display is 1440p, we're getting a PPI of 450, we're getting a 19.8:9 aspect ratio, and then we're getting a 90.9% screen to body ratio. So really small bezels all throughout here. And then the display does have a slight curve to it as well. So if you are a fan of curved displays, then here you go, this phone has it. But if you're not really a fan of that, it really doesn't get too much in the way either. It's not like an extreme curve, it's really just more of a slight curve. Now with the OnePlus 12R, we're getting a 16 megapixel front-facing camera. Now stay tuned for later on in the video, as I'll be showing you a variety of different camera samples from all the various cameras here on the device, but this phone can definitely take some great looking selfies. And then internally, we're getting options of 128GB of storage or 256, which I already mentioned before. And then there is no microSD card expansion here with the OnePlus 12R. Another thing this phone lacks is wireless charging. So the OnePlus 12 has wireless charging, but here with the 12R, that feature is not present. But honestly, I'm just grateful that we're getting 100-watt wired charging, so I'm okay with there being no wireless charging since the wired charging is so awesome. Now this phone does have Face Unlock, and then we're also getting an in-display fingerprint sensor, which is really fast and responsive, so I'll try that one more time, but that works really well, definitely a big fan of that. And then on the back of the device, we're getting a triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera that can capture images up to 112 degrees, and we're getting a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. We're also getting portrait mode for the front and rear cameras, and then we're also getting 4K video recording at 60 FPS for the rear camera, and then 1080p at 30 FPS as the maximum for the front camera. Now here's how things look on the camera app on the OnePlus 12R. This is with the main rear camera right now. Now by default, it'll actually take photos at 12 megapixels, but if you go over to the More tab here and go to High Res, it'll actually switch it over to 50 megapixels. And then I'll take the photo right now, and we'll see the results. And here we go. So you can see that I can zoom really far into this image and things are still really crisp and clear. I wouldn't use 50 megapixels though for every photo you take, just because that's going to take up a lot more space on your device. And I think for most people, it's really not necessary. But for the situations where you would want to have it, I am glad that it's there. You can also see over here in this More tab, we have the macro camera. So with the macro camera, you can get very close up and things can be in really good detail here. So I'll take that photo right now. And you can see how crisp and clear that macro camera is. So it's really no joke. It actually does work really well. We can also head over to the ultra wide angle camera and you can see we can fit a lot more content into a single frame here. Now you can zoom in and you can really crop in if you want to. I mean, technically you can go up to 20x zoom, but that is a digital zoom. So keep that in mind. But let's now take a look at some camera samples from the OnePlus 12R. So I'll let you be the judge of the quality of these images because you can literally see them right in front of you. But overall, I'm really happy with the quality of the various cameras here on the device. I was definitely able to take some really great looking images. However, keep in mind that compared to the OnePlus 12, the cameras here are definitely way less capable. So the OnePlus 12 just has incredible cameras, like some of the best out there when it comes to a smartphone. But for the OnePlus 12R, these cameras are certainly good and they get the job done. And I think for 99% of people out there, they're more than adequate. But when you are comparing the two phones side by side, with no doubt, there are some compromises being made here with the OnePlus 12, in addition to it lacking a telephoto camera, and then also having a lower megapixel count for the ultra-wide-angle camera. But if you do care about taking good quality images, but maybe you don't necessarily care to take the best images of any smartphone out in existence, then I think you will still be plenty happy with the camera quality of the OnePlus 12R. But let's take a look at some video samples from the OnePlus 12R. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a 1080p front-facing test video from the OnePlus 12R. Definitely curious what you think about the video and audio quality. And here's a bokeh front-facing test video from the OnePlus 12R. Definitely curious what you think. Basically with this mode, it's applying portrait mode to a video. So we're getting a nice blurred out background while having everything up close here being in focus. And here is a 4K test video using the main rear camera on the OnePlus 12R. And we do have very quick autofocus in video mode, which is great. And here's a test video using the ultra-wide camera on the OnePlus 12R. And this camera cannot record in 4K, unfortunately. So keep that in mind. But you can use the ultra-wide camera to get very close up and focus in on things, which is cool. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, this phone is offered in both 8 and 16 gigabytes of RAM. I do have the model with 16 gigs, so keep that in mind. And then the processor here with the device is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So the Gen 3 is the latest and greatest from Qualcomm, which is in the OnePlus 12. So one of the biggest compromises probably with going with the OnePlus 12R is that you're getting the Gen 2 instead of the Gen 3. Now, the biggest improvements with the Gen 3 are power efficiency and then also performance, but especially efficiency. That being said, though, the Gen 2 is never a bad processor, so it's certainly not a compromise. If anything, I'm glad we're getting the Gen 2 in this instead of like a 7 series processor from Qualcomm or even a 6 series, if they're even making those right now. I'm not even sure. But basically, I have no problem with last year's flagship processor being in a mid-range smartphone. I think we're getting a really great value by having that in here as it is, so I'm really happy about that decision. And then as I mentioned earlier, we're getting a really large 5500 milliamp hour internal battery. And then this phone does feature Android 14, featuring OnePlus's Oxygen OS. Now, I will be creating a dedicated tips and tricks video for the OnePlus 12R, so definitely stay tuned for that, so you can learn a lot about the various features of this device related to the software. But overall, I'm actually a big fan of the way that they do their software. I like how they're not really changing things just for the sake of changing them, but rather making Android even better. Some other cool features too about this device is that we are getting an IR blaster, so you can actually use this phone to change TV channels, for example, and do various things like that. And that's actually a feature that for a long time was present on quite a few flagship Android smartphones, more in the kind of early 2010s, but kind of disappeared for a while, but I'm glad that OnePlus brought it back, or at least they're one of the few companies that never really got rid of it, so I'm glad that it's here. It's certainly really helpful in situations where you especially need it. We're also getting NFC with this device, which is great too. And then another awesome hardware feature is that we're getting this slider here. So if you want to mute the phone or put it on ring and make those adjustments, you can do it right here instead of having to mess with the volume rocker on the side of the phone. But taking a closer look at the hardware of this device, taking a look at the left side of the phone, we have again that slider. Then on the right side, we have volume up, volume down, and the power button there. And then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone and IR blaster. Then on the bottom of the phone, we have the slot for the SIM card, we have the microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the speaker. And then on the back of the device, we have the OnePlus logo, and then we also have the camera module here. Now, even though this phone does have a glossy back, you can see that it doesn't pick up fingerprints quite as much as maybe some of the more cheaper phones out there. So I'm actually glad that that's the case, even though I do prefer to have a matte finish phone. But this phone definitely looks nice, and overall I'm a big fan of this color. I really like the look of the camera module too. Now, compared to the regular OnePlus 12, this phone definitely doesn't look as interesting or as good, but I will be comparing those two devices in a separate video, so definitely watch that video and judge for yourself. But in conclusion, I'm a big fan of the OnePlus 12R. I think this phone is an excellent mid-range device, certainly very competitive, both on price and what you're getting for that money. So I think this phone is going to sell really well, and I'm super excited for anybody who happens to buy it. But most importantly, I'm curious to know what you think about the OnePlus 12R. Let me know in the comment section below. But again, thank you OnePlus for sending this out. This is Kevin, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.